Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH the Flame Emperor episode number 182 based on novel. So let's start. Fen Tian and his party left the 5th floor of the underground palace and headed for the 6th floor, but they did not know that their whereabouts had already been calculated by King Xianling. However, King Xianling had other plans in mind. If he could kill his father with the help of the people in the burning incense pavilion, the entire Xianling royal family would be dominated by him, otherwise his father would not die in a day, then the Xianling king would be hindered everywhere from doing something. Leaving the 5th floor of the underground palace, with Ling Mengsheng's lover Xian Muqing, Ling Mengsheng was in a very happy mood along the way. He made Xian Muqing laugh from time to time, and everyone could see that Xian Muqing was important to him. The 6th floor of the underground palace is also strange. The crowd slowly came to the entrance of the 6th floor of the underground palace through the stairs leading to the 6th floor. This entrance is different from other entrances. Most of the other entrances are doors of light. Behind the doors of light are other special spaces. The entrance to the 6th floor of the underground palace is an ordinary wooden door. The wooden door is extremely ordinary, as if it has no power at all. There won't be an ambush, right? Seeing this, Mu Shuzi couldn't help but said. As we all know, the mystery in the underground palace is widely rumored, and it is said that the deeper the underground palace, the richer the treasure, so now that we have reached the 6th floor, it is inevitable to be a little worried. It should be fine, Xian Muqing said slightly. On the 6th floor of this underground palace, I had occasionally heard Xianyan and the other two brothers say that it seemed that there was something very important to Xianling King kept there. Be careful, if the information is accurate, Yang Kai should be on the 7th floor, so neither Zhu Jin nor I can take action on the 6th floor, otherwise our strength will attract other immortal warriors. The plan will have an impact, and things will be troublesome at that time. Fen Tian heard the words, first sensed it, and then said directly, "Leave this 6th floor to us." After hearing this, Ling Mengsheng nodded secretly. The knot in his heart opened, both his Xinxing and strength were greatly improved, and even Rimu Sheng had a hunch that Banxian was not far away from him. The 7 of them, excluding Fen Tian and Zhu Jin, the strength of the other 5, except for Mu Shuzi, is still in the 8-star Do Emperor consummation. And Ling Mengsheng is even more powerful at the peak of Do Di, so naturally everyone is not afraid of the 6th floor of this underground palace. With such a huge lineup, it would be ridiculous if even a small underground palace could not pass the 6th floor. Come in. After a while, Ling Mengsheng said something and then everyone slowly moved forward. Squeak. With a sound, Ling Mengsheng took the lead, Fen Tian and Zhu Jin hid their breath at the end, and then everyone opened the wooden door and stepped in gently. The wooden door was gently pushed open, and it was an indescribable terrifying suction that directly sucked everyone into it. Everyone saw that, whether they were busy or not, they looked at each other, and then went away by the mysterious attraction, because they also knew that in the underground palace, each floor was an independent space, and this entrance was only a source of extradition. At this time, in the 6th floor of the underground palace, there is a different appearance. Hihi, I don't know who's here. At this moment, above a tree in the sky, a sleepy old man slowly opened his pupils and said. The old man was dressed in a dark blue roe deer, the eyebrows between his brows were actually white, and even his hair was white. However, when the old man opened his pupils, a dark green slowly appeared in the pupil, and with the appearance of this strange dark green, the surrounding vegetation and leaves also became loose, and there was a very cheerful vibration. The old man was located on the top of the canopy of the big tree in the sky. 3 feet away from the old man, a lush green tree that was no more than 10 feet tall slowly appeared. It looks like a small tree, but it is not, because above the canopy, even above the leaves, a mysterious green power that is refreshing and pleasant slowly lingers. If Xiao Yan were here, he would have discovered that this sapling-like thing was the mother of the legendary fairy body tree. It is said to have the power to heal the soul and restore the peak power. What a dense forest. Ling Mengsheng and his party had just stepped into the 6th floor of the underground palace, and they immediately saw a huge forest. In the forest, there are all kinds of trees, and there seem to be many monsters, which adds a lot of mystery to this forest. What is that? Qing Laro looked up, but his voice was full of disbelief. Just looking up, I suddenly saw a towering tree in the sky standing in front of me. If it is said that this is a forest, I am afraid that the countless trees here are all paving the way for that towering tree. The Tongtian tree? Xian Mu couldn't help muttering when he saw this. Xuan Muking's current strength is also at the level of an 8-star Do Di, but what he knows about the underground palace is only the first 3 floors. As for the secrets behind the underground palace, King Shenling didn't tell her. There is a strong aura in there, Fen Tian said in a deep voice. Not a weak breath. When the old man heard the words, his eyes narrowed slightly. Fen Tian's current strength is at the early stage of the 2-star Dozian. If he can say that, I am afraid that the powerhouses in there are at the lowest level of half-immortal or even Dozian level. Pavilion Master, you and Zhu Jin should avoid first, otherwise the 7th floor of the underground palace will depend on you. Ling Mengsheng suddenly turned his head and said. That's what I mean, Fen Tian said, and immediately disappeared in front of the crowd with Zhu Jin. Everyone knew that this was clearly Zhu Jin's use of a formation to temporarily mix the two's breath with the others. The figure was hidden, but Fen Tian and Zhu Jin were still by their side. I, Qing Laro, the 2 old people in the world, and the 4 of them deal with that guy. As for Brother Mu, Ling Ari will leave it to you. After Ling Mengsheng finished his instructions, he turned his head and smiled at Shen Mu. On top of that smile, there was no commander's prestige. You have always been a knot in his heart, and now his knot is over, and his strength and character are back. This guy is the strongest person except our pavilion master. Mu Shuzi slowly came to Shen Muqing's side and smiled. Trouble. Shen Muqing heard the words and smiled slowly at Mu Shuzi. Mu Shuzi's strength is only the 8-star Do Emperor consummation, but Shen Muqing has a feeling that it seems that the 2 brothers who protected him before joining forces with Shenyan reasons may not be able to beat Mu Shuzi, and such a strong man is actually the weakest of the bunch. Set off. I haven't had blood boil for many years. After Ling Mengsheng finished everything, he slowly led the other 3 towards the big tree in the sky. As for Mu Zuxuan Muking and Fen Tian's group, they followed in secret. It's strange. When we first came here, the trees here were relatively fragile, but as we went deeper and deeper, the trees here seemed to become rough and stronger. The 4 of Ling Mengsheng slowly walking towards the giant tree in the sky in the middle of the forest. On the way, the old man suddenly said. And above these trees, it seems to contain extremely strong power. A careful sense, that strength is actually comparable to the powerhouse of a 1-star Do-D. Tian Laro also stopped and then spoke. I noticed that too. The trees here don't seem to be so simple, otherwise they wouldn't be left to the 6th floor of the underground palace. Ling Mengsheng naturally noticed this unusual scene, but he didn't care too much. If some 1-star Do Emperor level trees come to life, they probably won't cause much damage to themselves, and their purpose of this trip is naturally not here, so they can't waste time here. Ignore this for now, let's find the Guardian and talk about it first. After all, the 7th floor is in sight. Ling Mengsheng shook his head and said. Go. The 4 strong men looked at each other, and then the speed skyrocketed, and they went directly to the big tree in the sky. Mu Shuzi, on the other hand, is protecting Shen Muqing with due diligence. As for Fen Tian and the others, they are hiding in the dark. If Ling Mengsheng and the others encounter something that cannot be solved, they will take action. It's here. Not long after, the 4 strong men came directly under the big tree in the sky. The root of this tree is nearly 100 meters thick. The age of this tree is probably over 1,000 years. Qing Laro couldn't help but say, all things in the world have spirits. If this giant tree in the sky condenses spiritual wisdom, I am afraid it is also a strong person. But unfortunately, although the tree in front of me is full of spirituality, it has no spirituality. After all, it is extremely difficult for magical beasts to cultivate spiritual wisdom, and it is undoubtedly more difficult for such creatures with lower trees and weeds to condense spiritual wisdom. This tree has huge roots and stems, but you didn't find it. There is a vague circle of invisible power around the tree, which is obviously isolating something. At this time, the old man said, the 2 elders of heaven and earth are a husband and wife. The elders of heaven and earth are strong and tyrannical, and the elders of earth are virtuous. The 2 of them join forces. I am afraid that the pinnacle of Do-Di and even a half-immortal powerhouse will have the power to fight. Invisible power? Rimasheng was extremely insensitive to these things, so he didn't find it. Xiao Meng, you inject your power of life and death into the trees, and you will know. The old man said slowly. With D. Laro's age and seniority, it's not too much to call himself a little dream. Seeing the old man so serious, Ling Mengsheng didn't hesitate at all, his mind moved, and the huge power of life and death immediately gathered in his hands. At this time, on Rimu Sheng's palm, a force of life and death that constantly intertwined black and white beating slowly. As for the destructive power of fear, I am afraid that the powerhouses at the peak of Do-Di would be killed instantly. Go! Ling Mengsheng said lightly, and suddenly the huge force of life and death in his palm gently moved towards the rhizome of the giant tree in the sky. Bang, bang, bang. When the dazzling power of life and death just touched 1 meter of the giant tree in the sky, suddenly, in front of everyone, a dazzling green light flashed instantly, and then Ling Mengsheng's seemingly terrifying attack flew out instantly, out of Rimu's control, flew upside down and exploded suddenly in a certain place in the forest. It's really weird. At this time, Ling Mengsheng and Qing Laro suddenly became vigilant. This giant tree in the sky was not as simple as they thought. This should be the self-protection consciousness of the ancient tree. After all, this tree absorbs the greatest power in this space, so it is not surprising that it has this effect. D. Laro Tanzhu said. Old D, how to solve it now? Ling Mengsheng asked. Obviously the reason why D. Laro opened his mouth was because he had a way to deal with this kind of thing. If this green defense is not resolved, I am afraid that they will not be able to enter the ancient tree. The guardian should be at the top of the ancient tree. If they do not use the ancient tree to climb up, I am afraid that they will not be able to break through the 6th floor of the underground palace until they die. This is simple. Old man, look at us. D. Laro said something and then said to Tian Laro. Quick fight, quick decision. Tian Laro responded in a deep voice, and then the two of them interlocked their left fingers, and even their breaths merged together. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them interlocked their fingers, but they didn't do anything strange. It was just that on the one hand, the two of them interlaced their fingers with their left hands, while their right hand gently touched the ancient tree. Green ban. I don't know what the two elders of heaven and earth are doing, but everyone saw that a green energy gushed out from the two of them, and then it was exactly the same as the green energy of the ancient tree, and then circles of invisible ripples spread out in an instant. After a while, the mysterious restriction on the ancient tree disappeared without a trace, and when the mysterious prohibition disappeared, a circle of green energy fluctuations, like ripples, centered on the ancient tree, spread out towards the entire forest. Actors who will rot in prison for the rest of their lives. At the top of the ancient tree, the mysterious old man jokingly said, the 4 9-star fighting emperors. When I promised King Xianling to guard things here, I wanted to devour it secretly, but where did I think that King Xianling was so cunning? The guy from King Xianling probably already knew that the mother of this fairy body tree is not so easy to swallow. It's really a miscalculation. I've been thinking about it here for so many years. I'm finally here today, and this time, I want you all to know my name, Dong Xian, the white-haired old man said with a grin, but he was covered in ups and downs. The breath revealed is undoubtedly a real fighting immortal powerhouse. It's untied. The two old men said in unison. The two seniors are really good tricks. The old man was naturally delighted when he heard the words, but it was not surprising that the two old men of heaven and earth could unravel this thing. After all, the power of the two is special, and it is better for this kind of sidetracking. Let's go. Ling Mengsheng nodded, then raised his eyes and stared at the top of the ancient tree. Where, there seems to be an extremely tyrannical aura, and Ling Mengsheng seems to know that that guy should be the guardian of the 6th floor of the underground palace, and he has been waiting for them for a long time. Be careful, if the situation is not right. Just retreat. Don't worry, there are 2 of us old guys. Zhu Jin hurriedly said to Rimu Sheng. Don't worry, I won't be able to do it. After all, I am also someone with a family. After finishing the last word, he stepped directly into the ancient tree, and the last word was deliberately prolonged, apparently for Xuanmu to listen to. This guy, he has always wanted to be brave. However, if this time Shen Santian's affair ends, let him accompany me to live in seclusion and live a comfortable life. Xian Mu tilted his lips into a shallow smile, which was extremely beautiful. The 4 of them walked straight into the ancient tree in unison, and as the 4 stepped into the ancient tree, they immediately headed towards the top of the ancient tree. Don't go, if we follow in, we'll be exposed. Just when Xian Muqing was about to step into the ancient tree, Mu Shuzi took her by the hand and said, Okay. Xian Mu had no choice but to do it when he saw this. As for Fen Tian and Zhu Jin, under the cover of Zhu Jin's special formation, whether it was their strength or their figures, it seemed as if they had disappeared. They stood beside Xian Muqing and the 2, waiting for the success of the 4 of them. This is stairs. The 4 of Ling Mengsheng had just rushed into the ancient tree, and suddenly found that there was actually a cave inside. Maybe from the outside, this is just a huge ancient tree with roots and stems of hundreds of meters, but at this time inside the ancient tree, the 4 people know what is here. In front of the 4 of them, it turned out to be an extremely huge space, and in that space was a scene of spiral staircases paved with countless green leaf. And for some unknown reason, Rimu felt that these tricks should have been specially prepared by the guy at the top of the ancient tree. The inside of this ancient tree should be a closed space. At this time, Tian Laro suddenly spoke. Looking at Tian Laro's opening, Ling Mengsheng also glanced at it. In this huge space of 100 meters, there is nothing else other than these spiral green stairs. This feeling of emptiness made the four of them extremely unhappy. Let's go. Ling Mengsheng is indeed a strong man at the peak of Dodi. He knew this was a dangerous place, so he took the lead in walking. Boom boom boom. Just as Ling Mengsheng was walking on his feet, a vine with a thick arm suddenly appeared on the green stairs, and then attacked directly at Ling Mengsheng's limbs. Looking at this appearance, it is obvious that he wants to bind Rimu Sheng's limbs, thereby restricting his movement. There are enemies. Since Ling Mengsheng entered the ancient tree, he knew that the four of them would encounter the attack of the guardian in the dark at any time, so Ling Mengsheng was always vigilant, and now he was attacked by this vine. Naturally, it was a clever turnaround, dodging the past directly. Flame blade. Just after dodging the vine's attack, Rimu Sheng also counterattacked in an instant. On the palm of the hand, the power of life and death instantly appeared, and immediately surrounded the palm, turning into an extremely sharp flame blade. The next moment, Ling Mengsheng turned around, and the flame blade in his hand slashed directly at the vine. After a while, the vine was chopped in half. What a quick attack. The young man was at the back, and he saw everything that happened before. The vines appeared silently, even without warning. This makes it impossible to guard against. And the seemingly simple attack just now actually contained extremely fierce killing intent. If Rimu Sheng's reaction was a half-beat slower, he would probably be severely injured by the vines with the power of destruction. Have you found anything? Ling Mengsheng had just solved the strange vine, and immediately turned his head and asked the three of them. I'm afraid this space. It's the exclusive space for the person above. At this time, the second old man in the world looked extremely ugly, and then he spoke slowly. If you say that, the guy above should be a genuine fighting immortal strong. Hearing this, Ling Mengsheng did not flinch at all, and even the blood in his body became vaguely hot. Stand up. Once upon a time, Ling Mengsheng was a rare genius in the entire burning incense pavilion. If he hadn't encountered the news of his wife's death and lied about his death, if he hadn't been troubled by this knot in his heart, I'm afraid his strength would have been a real fighting immortal. This knot has plagued Ling Mengsheng's strength for nearly 20 years and has not improved, but even so, he can't suppress Ling Mengsheng's talent, so for this immortal warrior, Ling Mengsheng is naturally eager to try. After all, only fighting is the best way to improve your strength. Then fight him. When the old man heard this, he naturally didn't take a step back. Although Qing Laro's strength is still a long way from the peak of Dodi, Qing Laro also has confidence. Even in the face of Do's Yan strong, there is some effect, not to mention, there are still Ling Mengsheng and Tiandi Laro. Fighting is never alone. Oh, these little guys still have some strength. Above the canopy of the ancient tree, Dongxian slowly controlled his strength and then spoke. As for the vine attack that just attacked Ling Mengsheng, it was from Dongxian's hands. In a way, this ancient tree is Dongxian's domain. It's just that Dongxian's strength is only a beginner in Do's Yan, and in the early stage of one-star Do's Yan, he is far from the ability to form Do's Yan domain, so with the help of some secrets in the ancient tree, he can barely control the inner space of the ancient tree. In this space, Dongxian's strength will be infinitely magnified, while the strength of Ling Mengsheng's group will be suppressed. Under the circumstance that the other is growing, Dongxian naturally has an absolute chance of winning. Forget it, let's play with you. After Dongxian finished speaking, he slowly put away the power in his palm, then glanced at the mother of the fairy body tree slowly, and walked under the ancient tree. Go! The attack suddenly disappeared. Accompanied by the intermittent attacks, Rao was Ling Mengsheng, and he was in a hurry, but after a while, the four of them discovered that the attack had actually stopped. That breath, it's coming down. Ling Mengsheng suddenly said in a deep voice, with an unusually dignified expression on his cheeks. And following Rai Mengsheng's opening, the two elders of heaven and earth and Qinglao stopped the movements in their hands at the same time, and then slowly looked at a slowly creeping space above the steps of green leaves. Guru, the slowly wriggling space suddenly shattered, and an old man with white hair appeared from inside. Sure enough. Doxian. After feeling the unfathomable abyss-like strength of the old man in front of him, Ling Mengsheng smiled slowly, but beneath the smile, there was a hidden killing intent. The old man, Xianling, is enshrined by the royal family. Dongxian. Responsible for guarding the 6th floor of the underground palace. I don't know why GG came here, why? Dongxian seemed to ask knowingly. That's for asking. We came here naturally because we heard that Dongxian is very powerful, so we came here to ask for some advice. Ling Mengsheng took over the words and said, in the tone of voice, that terrifying aura is no less than that of a fighting immortal powerhouse. I don't know if your excellency is a person. Dongxian is gentle and elegant. After all, his absolute confidence in his own strength will not give Ling Meng an opportunity. Listen to me. The hall master of the burning incense pavilion, Ling Mengsheng. After Ling Mengsheng finished speaking, the heaven-shattering fighting spirit suddenly burst out. Oh, it's actually the person from Burning Incense Pavilion. King Xianling said that if you meet someone in the Fenxiang Pavilion, you will kill without mercy. Dongxian's originally indifferent face suddenly showed a chilling meaning. As the two sides are evenly matched, a war is about to break out. If that's the case, let's fight. When Ling Mengsheng heard this, he burst into laughter, but he didn't pay attention to Dongxian in front of him. Dongxian, it is the Xianling royal family who did not know where to pay a high price to invite him to worship, and his strength is only in the early stage of 1-star Dozian. Although Ling Mengsheng's strength is only the peak of Do Di, Dongxian alone has not let Ling Mengsheng. Mengsheng, 4 people are afraid of the degree. Do you need to take action? Zhu Jin, who was hidden in the formation, felt the strength of Dongxian Yixing in the early stage of Dozian, who was above the ancient tree, and couldn't help but say something to Fen Tian. With that keen perception, Zhu Jin knew that this guy was a genuine fighting immortal powerhouse. Zhu Jin's current strength is already at the level of a half-immortal. Naturally, he knows that a half-immortal and a fighting immortal are not at the same level, so Zhu Jin said so worriedly. Being not. Even though Dongxian's strength is Dozian, he is only in the early stage of 1-star Dozian, and this battle is the first battle that Ling Mengsheng just got rid of. For him, it is very important. Fen Tian shook his head. But Dongxian isn't a vegetarian either. The wood-type vindictiveness, coupled with the fact that this place is a forest, is a rare treasure for him. In this case, they are tantamount to being at a disadvantage. Zhu Jin wondered and worried. No breaking, no standing. Ling Mengsheng has been at the peak of Do Di for decades. And you forgot, fire also kills wood. After Fen Tian finished speaking, he suddenly laughed. You mean? And as soon as Fen Tian's voice fell, Zhu Jin was also excited. If there is a fighting immortal in their burning incense pavilion, I am afraid it is enough to sweep the supersec. Wait and see. After Fen Tian finished speaking, the two suddenly became quiet, and a war broke out in that ancient tree. Although I don't know the deep hatred between King Xianling and you burning incense pavilion, but I'm just taking people's money and helping them eliminate disasters, so don't blame me when you guys go to ***** later. Dongxian looked very strange. Looking at Ling Mengsheng, 4 people's eyes also became gloomy. Dongxian is not from the Xianling continent, so naturally he doesn't know the power of Fenxiang Pavilion, but for King Xuanling's promise to give him a reward for killing a strong Fenxiang Pavilion, Dongxian is excited when he thinks about it. And the strength of these 4 powerhouses are all in the 9-star Do Emperor, and even have stepped into the peak of Do Emperor. The status of the 4 is definitely not low in the Fenxiang Pavilion, so if you kill the 4, I am afraid you will get the benefits will be shoot. Ling Mengsheng also knew that this guy was facing their Fenxiang Pavilion, so he didn't plan to keep his hands, and he was ready to use his ultimate move as soon as he made a move. This is my territory, fall obediently. As soon as Dongxian finished speaking, he lifted his palm slightly, and the overwhelming energy immediately turned into a huge tree in the sky, whistling towards Ling Mengsheng. What a tyrannical attack, worthy of being a fighting immortal powerhouse. Ling Mengsheng said a word, and then his hands did not stop, and the dazzling power of life and death gathered in the palm of his hand, and then faced Dongxian, who was incarnated as a tree in the sky. Attack away. Boom boom boom. The dazzling power of life and death and Dongxian's mysterious power attacked, and the sound of sawdust shattering suddenly sounded in the space of the ancient tree. Little Chinga, buy us some time. The 2 elders of Tiendi also knew that Ling Mengsheng wouldn't last long, and immediately spoke up. Okay. The old man nodded secretly when he heard the words. Looking at the old man as a defense, the 2 elders of heaven and earth also sat cross-legged directly on the green stairs, and immediately put their palms on each other. Good boy, it's interesting. Dongxian blinked, and then said to Ling Mengsheng. This guy, his strength is indeed tyrannical. Ling Mengsheng wiped a trace of blood from the corner of his mouth, and then stared vigilantly at Dongxian in front of him. Tianxian wooden hand. After a while, Dongxian launched the attack first. As soon as Dongxian finished speaking, a dazzling palm with a size of several tens of meters slowly formed in front of him, and on the wooden hand, there were circles of mysterious runes surrounding it, and its power was obviously extremely terrifying. 3 days of flame palms. Seeing this, Ling Mengsheng took a deep breath, and then the power of life and death instantly flashed. At that time, Ling Mengsheng's entire body shone with the power of life and death intertwined with black and white, and the next moment, the dazzling power of life and death directly formed a black and white palm that was also several dozen meters in size in front of her. The black and white palms just appeared, and suddenly the inner space of the ancient tree vibrated slightly, and Ling Mengsheng knew that this space had a certain degree of suppression for them, otherwise his attack would be at least a few hundred meters in size. An ant is an ant after all. Dong Xian shook his head slowly. Although Ling Mengsheng's attack seemed to be very powerful, the strength of Do D's peak was not enough to make Dong Xian official. It's time to end. Dong Xian stood at a height below zero, and pointed lightly at the direction where Ling Mengsheng was. Suddenly, the terrifying killer move around him seemed to pierce the heavens and the earth, directly facing Ling Mengsheng. It's good to come. Seeing Dong Xian's devastating attack, Ling Mengsheng not only did not retreat, but even took a step forward, and then the dazzling black and white palm suddenly pushed, directly attacking Dong Xian. Intertwined. Boom boom boom. As soon as the two touched, the overwhelming terrorist attacks continued to spread out, and the energy ripples that spread out, I am afraid that the mere 8-star Do Emperor can be wiped out. As expected of an immortal warrior. Ling Mengsheng kept his eyes fixed on the two attacks in midair. After a while, he realized that as expected, his attack was gradually defeated by Dong Xian's attack. It's taking a blow from me. Ling Mengsheng is indeed a daring person. Watching his attack fall below, he did not hesitate, and he didn't want to wait for his attack to fail before making a move, but the first time get ready to do it. Shabu shabu. The space around Rimu Sheng trembled slightly, and then he disappeared directly in place. Well, Dong Xian was a little surprised by Ling Mengsheng's sudden scene, but the next moment, he understood. Old dog. Go to hell. With an air of arrogance, he appeared directly 3 meters away from Dong Xian, and this figure was Ling Mengsheng. At this time, Ling Mengsheng, on the palm of his hand, a group of extremely subtle fiery red flames slowly beat like a elf, but don't look at the small flames, but the pressure on Dong Xian is like death. It's actually Shengyan Zihuo. Dong Xian felt a dignified feeling in his heart, and then a dazzling black-green aura was slowly born on his body, and finally intertwined with the Shengyan Zihuo controlled by Ling Mengsheng, forming a quite spectacular scenery inside the ancient tree. How can this guy have the power of Shengyan Zihuo? Dong Xian was extremely shocked. Shengyan Zihuo was one of the benefits that Shenling King had promised himself, but watching Ling Mengsheng's whistling attack, he didn't like it. Dare to stay, open his hand directly, the power of fighting immortals emerges, and a dignified expression appears on his face. If the power of Holy Flame is displayed in the hands of a powerhouse of their level, I am afraid it has the power to destroy the world, and even if it is the fire of the Holy Flame, the terrifying power of destruction is far from ordinary things that can be compared. But this time, the power that appeared in Dong Xian's hands has changed from contempt at the beginning to the present. Obviously, Ling Mengsheng's trace of Saint Yan's fire has put too much pressure on Dong Xian, so Dong Xian has to solemnly treat it up. This guy has even used the power of fighting immortals. I'm afraid he is also afraid of Saint Yan Zihuo of Ling Mengsheng. However, Pavilion Master, when did Ling Mengsheng own the fire of Shengyanzi? Why don't you even know me? Zhu Jin laughed. I had it a long time ago, but he never used it. Fen Tian smiled. With the increase of Shengyan Zihuo, I am afraid that Ling Mengsheng really has the power to fight against Dong Xian. Boom boom boom. There were no other fluctuations on Ling Mengsheng's palm, some were just the fiery red Saint Yanzi fire directly wrapping his fist, and then out of instinct, Ling Mengsheng swiped heavily in front of him and hit him directly. Dong Xian's body. At the same time, Dong Xian also knew that this holy flame was no child's play, so he didn't dare to neglect, put away his previous contempt, and used the power of fighting immortals directly, forming extremely dazzling rays of light in front of his body. Protect yourself in it. Do-di strong people have the power of life in their bodies. After the power of death is born, and after the power of life and death is integrated and intertwined, they will step into the realm of the 9-turn 9-star Do-di. As for fighting immortals, the power of life and death in the body has already been transformed into the power of fighting immortals, which is even more terrifying than the power of life and death. The power of fighting immortals, compared to the power of life and death, is tantamount to being too powerful. Boom boom boom. When Ling Mengsheng's fist attacked Dong Xian, it happened to be blocked by the power of fighting immortals on his silver robe. It's just that everyone found that there was a very strong defense on top of the silver robe. Rao is so, under Ling Mengsheng's fearful attack, the solid defense is like glass, and there is a faint sound of shattering. Damn. The power of fighting immortals is really tyrannical. Looking at the dark green light of the silver robe on Dong Xian's body, Ling Mengsheng immediately stopped and hurried back, and said something secretly. Although the power of holy flame is powerful, the power of fighting immortals is also well-deserved. I have to say, you are very strong. But I'm very curious, how can you have a holy flame? Dong Xian seemed to take Ling Mengsheng's attack casually, but it was not. The blow just now was enough to seriously injure yourself. Watching Ling Mengsheng leave, Dong Xian spoke slowly, with a rare calmness in his voice. It seems that the strength of Do D's peak is still a little reluctant to challenge the real Dozian powerhouse. Seeing this, Ling Mengsheng smiled slightly. It seemed that Dong Xian had the upper hand in the attack just now, but Ling Mengsheng also knew that Dong Xian should not feel well when he received his own attack, but at this time Ling Mengsheng had just attacked Dong Xian's fist, and the blood slowly flowed out. Obviously, it is not that simple to be able to get close to breaking that layer of defense. Why don't you hand over your holy flame to me? I'll guarantee you won't die, how about that? A glint of greed flashed in Dong Xian's pupils, and he opened his mouth slightly, staring at Ling Mengsheng's eyes also becoming hot. If he can get a trace of Saint Yanzi fire, he will have absolute confidence to break through the initial stage of one-star Dozian. Even the Shenling royal family will be a little polite to him. After all, the gap between each level of Dozian is like a gulf. Not so good. If you want the holy flame in my body, you should take care of yourself first. After Ling Mengsheng finished speaking, he flickered and walked towards the bottom of the ancient tree. It's stubborn. Dong Xian snorted coldly without turning his head. But the next moment, Dong Xian's perception clearly felt an extremely huge power from under the ancient tree. In that power, with the power of a very tyrannical seal, even the strength of his own dignified fighting immortal felt a scalp tingling. When did these immortals come up with this kind of thing? Dong Xian had just been entangled by Ling Mengsheng, so he naturally forgot that there were 4 of them, not one of Ling Mengsheng. When now realizing that something was bad, the other 3 also appeared in Dong Xian's line of sight. Dong Xian saw that Ling Mengsheng returned to the side of the 3, and one of the 3 was weak, but among the 3, 2 old men were sitting on the ground, and there was a dazzling power of life and death on the 2 old men. Slowly blended, and then some golden energy was born, and the golden energy was like an awakened dragon, with an imposing momentum. Not good. It's actually a combination of fighting skills. The next moment, Dong Xian's expression became very strange. Dong Xian clearly knew that if the golden energy on the 2 of them was born, he would probably have it too. He didn't dare to hesitate, his palms suddenly raised, and a black-green Dozian was enough to kill the 4 people below. The power appeared, and then the figure flashed, and roared away at the 4 people below. With the birth of such a terrifying attack by Dong Xian, Ling Mengsheng and Qinglao below both felt an extremely powerful pressure, and immediately looked at each other. They were just about to stop the attack, but they were stopped by the 2 elders in front of them. Actors who will rot in prison for the rest of their lives. Let's see. The weak information of the second old man of heaven and earth passed into Ling Mengsheng and Qinglao's ears, and before the 2 could react, the dazzling golden energy on the second old man of that day actually materialized. Under the control of Dong Xian, who was directly facing the roaring Dong Xian. Damn bastard. Go to hell. Xiantian bone shattering palm. Dong Xian came dozens of meters in front of Tiendi Laro immediately. The terrifying offensive force on the palm of his hand increased sharply, and a murderous intent emerged in his pupils. With one palm, the immortal fighting power that instantly annihilated the trees, caused the space to riot slightly in the ancient trees. Golden Bell, Heavenly King Feng. Facing Dong Xian's powerful attack, the 2 elders of the world didn't look shocked, and then let out a slow roar. And as the roar of the second old man of heaven and earth came out, the golden energy that emerged from the fusion of life and death from the second old man suddenly turned into a huge golden ancient bell at a speed visible to the naked eye. On the golden ancient clock, mysterious golden runes are constantly surrounded, full of mystery. The golden ancient bell just appeared, and the space that had been attacked by Dong Xian and caused a riot was quieted down. The next moment, the golden giant bell shrouded Dong Xian directly. Golden Bell, Heavenly King Seal. Suppress me. The 2 elders of heaven and earth couldn't help but shouted loudly. Immediately, from the golden ancient bell, the power of seal suppression continued to spread out, and then directly confronted Dong Xian. Xiantian bone shattering hand. Break it to me. Dong Xian's expression also showed a hint of madness. At this point, if either of the two of them takes a half step back, they will immediately be corroded by this powerful attack, so, better yet, let go. At this moment, in the inner space of the ancient tree, a golden ancient bell and a huge black-green palm are deadlock. This video will end here.